Well, I thought I'd introduce to you tonight, apart from me being a bit deaf, my hearing is suffering quite badly the last couple of weeks. I decided to buy a shortwave radio to do up, and I thought this is a lovely little radio, I'll buy it and restore it. It came through the post, and it wasn't little like in the picture. It's actually 21 inches long. I'll just put the tape measure at 12 inches along there, and adding it on, it's 21 exactly. And I want to show you a little bit around the radio. As you see, the case is a bit polished, but it still wants doing properly. It's in good condition. There's no chassis in it. I've taken that out. There's a bit of a shadow caused by, I always get that in here. And just turn it round. It is absolutely big. I mean, if you see my hand there, that'll tell you how big it is. And that's the inside of it. The dial is kind of plastic. It wants taken out and cleaning. And the speaker is quite a big speaker in there. And so what we're going to do now, this is called an Ecko Mariner U834. And if I put it onto my sofa, 3-seater, you can actually see how big it is. What we're going to do is get the chassis, or I call it the chassis, and sort of give you a guided tour and do a little bit of explaining what I've actually been up to. The dial, very good condition. There's rubber tyre, felt washers that stick on these posts. I took them off so they don't get lost. That's going to need to come off. The cord is a bit loose, it's going to be tightened. Let's just turn it round. This is international shortwave. And if I show you the chassis, it's in good nick, there's no rust. Bit of tarnish, got to expect that, 1968. I had to change the fuses, I blew them. What had happened, it went sort of reasonably early in its life. The capacitor across the switch had gone, and basically it took out one side of the switch. Now you don't need both sides of the switch, one side is perfectly fine, just to switch what I call the positive side. So I made it so it'll only switch the live of the line, not both, which is perfectly acceptable. A lot of the early Bushes and that only had a single pole switch on, single throw, not a single pole double throw switch. I'm just going to get a selection of parts I got, so please excuse the bobbing up and down of the camera. I put a spare set of valves in. I bought a new set of valves for this. That one is the UCH81, that's a Mullard one, it's new. That one is the same construction, but it's a Marconi, UF89. That one's a Mullard UBC81. That's the UL84, it's the original. So it's got a few little marks on it, but it's certainly not cream crackered. It's got plenty of life in it. And I've got another one of them coming that looks new. You look at the glass and see if it's stained, then you'll know how old they are. This one's not stained at all. In fact, it's not even burnt on the base. So, I mean, this radio didn't have very much use. And it looked as though somebody had tried to take it apart and unsuccessfully. And I want to show you that knob. That knob is held on with a collet and an Allen screw. I could not get it off. So unfortunately I had to chip a piece out and work a way of getting it off. Now I tried to get another one of these knobs. I've been on the whole of eBay. I can't get one. So I find these very difficult to turn. So I bought some knobs that have got slight scallops on. They're white ones. But they've got the silver bit, but I can't turn a lot of these knobs. I had these with serrations on. I can't turn those. I just can't turn anything unless it's got something to grab hold of. So the knobs are slightly bigger. They're about 2mm bigger than these. So I'm just hoping I'm not going to ruin the look of the radio, but I don't think I will. And I'm not flogging it, this is for me anyway. Because I like shortwave. I've got an amateur radio, but I want something I can listen to broadcast shortwave on. The story of this radio, that it's very similar to the a Philips one that they did. And there was also one called the Pi Seafarer. And that was exactly the same radio, made by Philips. Ecko or Philips were the same company, of course, at the time. And this one was built in that era. It says Ecko on, and it's called the U834. But when you look at the Philips model of this, it's absolutely identical. Except it's got the Philips badge on it. And the Seafarer is absolutely identical. It's just got a different case and a different set of knobs. And it's in fairly good condition. If I come round here and you have a look at the wiring, and there's a selenium diode, I believe, in there. And I got 250 volts coming out of there. That's okay, but I will change it. I've got a new one to go into an equivalent. And that wire there, that pink wire, was what went to the switch. And it grounded it to the chassis through the switch. But that's gone. So what I've decided to do is to solder that on there, so I only need one side of the switch. The mains goes through both fuses, and it grounds one side of the lead, and the other side switches to the plus. Which is weird, you think doing that blow the fuse, but it's an AC/DC set, so they're using the chassis as part of the main circuit. There's no transformer. If I just have a little look in the chassis, you'll notice there's a couple of waxers in there I've taken out. One of them is strapped across there because I wanted to fire the radio up. And there's 1, 2, 4 wax capacitors in there and 2 Hunt's mould seals. Apart from that, and an electrolytic. The 2 mains electrolytics are fine. There's no Hunt, and they're way over voltage. They're 250. Things only presenting 180 volts on the anode to the output valve. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll change that dog bone in there, and I think it's 10k, is it? Can't remember how much it is now. Body 1, yeah, 10k. He's 10k. So that will come out. It's got mainly Mullard capacitors in there. And they're good. Then nothing ever goes wrong with those generally. What will happen is I'll take those mould seals out. They don't have any voltage across though. They're just part of the tuning circuit. But I don't like them. They split, and I change them as a matter of course. I don't even bother with it, anything. They come straight out. I don't even think about it. I just pull them straight out. It might be difficult to get it that one. Sometimes it's worth snipping them off and just bending 2 hooks and soldering them. It might look a bit rough, but it'll work okay, and you're not going to see it under here. These 2 down here are quite difficult. Now, no voltage goes in those. They're just from the gram sockets, so they're probably okay because there's nothing going to go through those. It's only going to be sound going through, and so I mean they can be crap and it don't matter. But I'll change them if I've got them, so I might as well. That's the coil pack. The coil pack hasn't been touched. This has never been out of the chassis before. And you say, how will I know that? Because you just couldn't get it apart. It took me a whole bloody afternoon to work out how to get it apart. So it's never been taken apart before. And what would happen on that switch at the bottom, where that cap's just touching it, there's 4 double poles. It's single through 2 poles. The pole to the ground that switches in line to the ground actually gone. So I thought, well, what I'm going to have to do is just use one half of the switch and ground the end as supposed to. So I did that, and that's where, I'm not sure where the blue, if that's part of the blue wire. Yeah, the blue wire is part of it. So it's switching the blue and the green. The other ones that's all connected together. I'm not sure what they do, but I know there's only 2 parts are needed. Yeah, I think it's those groups of the yellow, and I can't bloody remember which one, but I know that what happened, I blew the fuses when I first tried to hotwire that switch, and then I did it and then it's fine. So I only need wires going to 2 of them, so I got to find out what that one is. Find out which 2 switch and which 2, because I can't remember, because I'm going to need to put a capacitor across there to stop hum. It went on that yellow one, and it went on the yellow one and the blue one. So I have a feeling those 2 are the ones I got to solder the capacitor to. Yeah, they'd be the one, I think. What I'll do is I'll remove that. Look, no, that blue wire goes to the fuse, I think. So if I remove that, I'm in the shit. So yeah, so we'll have to find out which one I'm going to put the capacitor to. And it basically goes across there and grounds it, so you don't arc the switch out. It also helps with something called modulation hum. Turn to a strong station, you get hum in the background. A lot of people say that with these radios, oh, I got hum. I say, if you put that capacitor back across the switch, no. I said, well, that's what it's there for. You're going to need that. It just takes a bit of a while to teach and show people what to do. And it's got a weight for the tuning dial weight. It'll need the grease rejuvenating, but it seems to be alright. It's not dried out actually either. I think this has been under someone's stairs. I don't think it's been in a garage, or as I call it, a gower and that. All the trimmers are sealed with some kind of glue. Those haven't been touched. My suggestion is it's probably perfectly in alignment, these coils. I'm not going to touch them. I'll just align the pointer with the capacitor tuning cap. And I'm a great believer in not doing any more than you have to. So that's that. So this is all original. There's a bit of Bakelite broken out. Shouldn't be picking them up like that, but there's a bit of Bakelite broken out there. That's the wire for the bulb. Someone's cut it and joined it to take the bulb holder out. Well, that is just stupid. They didn't need to do that. I can't see any point of that. If you can't get the chassis out, I think they cut those wires thinking they could get the chassis out and couldn't get it out. And they put this tape on that goes around. I believe it's the same tape they use around bicycle handles. These 2 wires would just get replaced. I am not going to join these. I do not like joining wires. I don't like doing that. And that cap on that transformer is working, but that's going. It's 1000 volts metal pack. You take that off and you get a terrible noise through the speaker. It's probably fine, but I'm not taking any chances. These main smoothers are being run 100 undervolts. They're working fine. I may put new ones underneath and just keep those for looks. I may see how it goes. If there's no hum and these are working, I tend to leave it alone. If there's no hum. The chassis is a bit mottled and a bit tarnished, but there's no rust. I've cleaned it with my little brush here and a rag. There was literally no dust on this chassis at all. There wasn't anything there. And very little dust inside the cabinet. So my suggestion is this radio has had an extremely light use. And it went early wrong in its life due to this capacitor blowing. I'll go and get it so you can see it. Yeah, there you are. This one was across the switch. This is a wax one. And it's in a pretty poor state. And believe it or not, I put my Ohm meter on it. And it measured 700 Ohm. I know it sounds improbable, but it did. 700 Ohm on my digital multimeter. It's virtually a short. Consequently, that was grounded that switch right to the floor and basically just blew the damn contact on one side. So that's what the original fault was. Just that little capacitor can cause so much trouble. And basically, as soon as I took that off, made it single pole to switch on, it sprung into life, and put a wire in the back and it was going. So for a tiny little part that cost £1 or 20p or whatever they cost, I bought some high voltage ones, that radio's been inoperative most of its life because that went. And you very often find it with these radios. People say the valves is gone. I said it's very rare the valves ever go. I said it's generally the capacitors or resistors going high. What I say to people is check your resistors to see if they're high, change them if they're within 10 or even 20%. They're fine, even within 10 or 20%. But once they get over that, getting 30 odd percent or more, well, I say over 20%, then you really need to replace those. These are carbon resistors, but because the set has had very, very little use, most of these seem fine, I think. I'll test them. But I think the major problem is that dog bone. That will be changed. Because my output valve, the voltage, I believe, is about 20 volts too low. So I think that might be that. What I'm going to do is jerry-rig the other diode across there, measure the voltage, and see if that diode is producing under voltage. And if that comes back up to, it should be 190 volts, it's only running at 170. I don't think it'll make much difference, but these all seem fine. The voltages on these smaller ones seem fine. So maybe it's always run at 180. Then 165 was that? It says on the plan of the valve, maximum voltage for use is 190. So it might have always run at 160. And there seems to be plenty of volume, so maybe changing that diode could bring the volts up slightly. And check that resistor, and that will be it. So I say this capacitor's gone. These are the original valves. This one is new. It might be the original, I don't know. It's a Mullard, so it's probably the original. That UCH81 is original, but it looks as though it's quite silvered on the sides, probably the gutter. So it might be okay. And there's the, let's try and find the UF89 a minute. That's the UF89. It's a little bit, it's just beginning to discolour at the bottom of the base. Very, very slightly. This one is only just started to discolour very slightly. This one the same, but it's got strong getters on the side. This is the output valve. These output valves get black very quickly. If I put it there, there was some yellowing, a little bit of yellowing and a bit of score, just a bit of yellowing on it. Not even the bases, they normally turn black, and that's not happened with that. So my suggestion, this radio has had very little use in its life. That's why it's in such a good state. And anyway, when I start capping it, I'll let you see it when I've capped it. And what I'll do is I'll fire it up before I cap it and show you it going. I might not, I might just cap it, but I might show you it before working before I cap it. So what I'll do is I'll reaffix. I got another one of these UL84s coming. It looks new, it's not boxed, but these valves are getting quite rare. I went on eBay and I only found half a dozen, and some of them they wanted £15 plus post. Some of them wanted £30 each. So if you ever get an old radio and see these in there, take them out. It doesn't matter if they're a little bit discoloured. If they're working, they're working. And you know, don't ever chuck your valves away, even if they look a bit black. Keep them, test them. If they work, use them up. A lot of people, what they're doing is they're taking the original valves out, putting new ones in and chucking these away. Now that's just stupid. These valves are perfectly working. So what I'll probably do when I've done this set and got it tuned up is put them valves back in, because they were originally in there. See if the receiver's any worse or better, and those are going to go back and be used up, and these will just go back into my box. They never came boxed, they were just wrapped. They came from a big lot. So these three, and those are new as well, these two are brand new. They'll be wrapped up, put back with another one of those, and I'll have a couple of sets of valves for him. And these will get used. What I do is turn the lights out, see if there's any gas leaks, if they've gone gassy, see if the cathodes are lighting up okay, and if they seem to be okay, then I'll use them. I'm not going to flipping mess with it. Anyway, 73s. My next video is going to be about a Bush DAC 90 which I bought. That requires a bit more work on it than this one. Quite a bit more work. But I love the 90, but I bought this because I really like listening to shortwave. All I've got to do is take that front panel off, tighten that cord up because it's a bit loose. It's just stretched a bit because it's been left. But as you can see, there's no tarnish on the chassis. Just a bit, well, a bit of tarnish and a bit of dust. But there was virtually no dust on this. It was incredible. And it hadn't been cleaned. And because I turned the cap where that was where it's dead top, looked underneath, looked in here, and there wasn't really hardly any dust. I think it's been stood by most of its life. Most of the time when I take radios apart, these valves are full of dust and rubbish. There was just a tiny bit of dust on them, but there wasn't hardly anything. And so I think I got a good one here. I think that's going to make a really nice radio. Anyway, thank you. I hope you enjoy. This is the Ecko Mariner U834 Universal Shortwave Radio, using a mains dropper rather than a format in a trance. Thank you.